My personal real estate property taxes increased from 2023 to 2025 by $1,051. And this referendum will increase that number by another $880. That is nearly a $2,000 increase in 2 years. And when presented with these numbers, the current administration response is the unconcerned shoulder shrug, followed by the "you can just move," or a somewhat more honest response: "We know it's going to hurt, but we need this." And given the pronoun controversy over the last 4 or 5 years, I'd like to know who the "we" in that statement is. But the most honest response of all: we have a food pantry at the high school, and you can just go there if you can't afford the tax increase. The entire referendum demonstrates this administration's complete disconnect, tone deafness, and their utter lack of knowledge and understanding about our community. In fact, 2 days ago, a rally was held in Indianapolis on this very topic to dramatically reduce, if not outright eliminate, real estate property taxes. The rally was even attended and addressed by our current governor and lieutenant governor. And I'd like to share an anecdote from newly elected state representative Andrew Ireland, who also spoke at that rally. When a local government entity has their hand out asking for more property tax money, saying there is nothing left to cut, it sure smells a lot like my new baby's used diapers. Well, the last thing I'd like to say is the Silver Creek School Corporation has 4 members elected by this community. One of those seats that's currently occupied by Christy Franklin is up for re-election in 2026. And I would ask that each of you search your conscience, talk with your family, your friends, and your neighbors, and let's find a fiscally responsible candidate for this seat in 2026. And let's identify candidates for the balance of those seats in 2028. If we do that, maybe we can avoid having this fight again in 2 years. And with that, vote no on May 6th, and let's defeat this referendum. Thank you. And I have an essay that was written by a concerned citizen who couldn't be here tonight and asked me to read it for him. So I'm just reading their words. I watched old board meetings, read through a lot of social media posts concerning the 2017 referendum. The ask was $90 million to fix up the high school and expand on the lower grade buildings. I, like the majority, had a student go through Silver Creek High School with mold, mice, roaches, and carrying blankets to school every day because of the lack of heating. The school was never maintained properly. It was ignored by West Clark, and it needed to be brought up to par like the other schools in West Clark. Who knows why, but the high school needed it. People supported that notion, which ended up turning into a lot more than what the Silver Creek Corporation board members sold to the taxpayers back in 2017. The same players, Christy Franklin, Chris Roundtree, and Joe Basham, who attacked the people who were concerned about how it would be managed, are back again, attacking people for being concerned as to why they are coming back asking for $65 million more. Why? Poor forecasting, planning, and execution. Spending on consultant after consultant. Financial audits showing revenue and expenditures not placed in the correct funds. Change orders getting carried away. Giving huge salary increases that would never happen in the private sector, let alone any other school district. Overextending their budget. Taking on and creating the majority of the special education programs from the previous West Clark system. Adding extras that other small tax-based school districts cannot afford or are budgeted for. Changing designers and builders halfway through. All schools took extra money through the CARES Act, and so did Silver Creek School Corporation. Over the past 4 years, having watched meetings of these board members make decisions that were more focused on the image sports, and what benefits the adults than the core education that should benefit the students has been mind-boggling. Spending countless dollars on programs to focus on feelings instead of fact-based educational programs that students need to thrive in a competitive future. Here's a fact. Silver Creek School Corporation has recently received more state and federal funding than ever before, and in some cases, more than other like districts. I've looked at the enrollment trends, and the fact is, Silver Creek might be growing, but definitely does not equate to rising enrollment at Silver Creek. In fact, over 4 years, the enrollment from Silversburg families has grown by only 1% since 2020. Why? Because each year, Silver Creek loses Silversburg families to other public schools. What is really going on inside the halls of the school? The vouchers for private schools affect Silver Creek minimally compared to losses to other public schools. Any Silver Creek School Corporation growth that they claim is actually from out-of-district transfers. Families who will not be financially affected by this referendum. That was predicted to happen back in 2017. Their solution? Bring in more transfers to spend money, which in turn continues to cause overcrowding, to make up for all the above issues and use it as an excuse to expand. Does the Public Education institution not understand that when government entities spend money on extra wants rather than real needs, like the last 4 years of the previous administration, it causes inflation? And here we are again. As a reminder, we are already on the hook for 20 years of $90 million in renovations on top of the added debt Silver Creek School Corporation took from separating from West Clark. The same board members are trying to show the public a skewed version, leaving out details that impact the direction. Nor will they show details of where the money went and whether they are hemorrhaging or not. Time to show the public your math work, like most math teachers demand of students. Yes, they caused this situation through poor management of the taxpayers' money. Yes, Sellersburg school taxes already increased substantially, from 0.71 to 1.0499. And we felt it hit hard. And now they want more. And no, it was not only because of property assessments, which forecasting shows may actually decline. In fact, the property tax assessments gave Silver Creek School Corporation more money than they forecasted. After evaluating what has happened over the last 4 years, it is certainty they will come back in 4 years or less demanding more again. It's past time for Doge before approving more of the same. So now we're going to have a few comments by Vaughn Andrews, and she's going to give us some community testimonials.
First of all, I'm very nervous. I don't usually talk in front of crowds. I'm also a former graduate of Silver Creek. I graduated back in 1990 with my big bald hair. John's asked me to speak tonight about my personal experiences with many of our community members. I've had a lot of contact with residents, whether it be face-to-face while out delivering flyers. I've had lots of residents stop by my house and ask about my no-vote signs, and I've had lots of community communication through Messenger. The consensus is the same. We can't afford another tax increase. The most concerning thing to me is how many people in our community do not know about this referendum. We have a large community of retirees who are not on social media. These community members live on fixed incomes. So this morning I looked up Social Security income because I don't know. It showed the average individual receives $967 a month. It shows a married couple receives around $1,450 a month. These numbers can vary a little bit, but think about that. That don't even pay rent. They told me that the last 3 years have been very hard for them. Property taxes have put them in a position where they might have to sell their homes. And how's that fair to anybody? These residents have lived here most of their lives. They've raised their kids, and they've paid more than their share of school and property taxes. They tell me everything's gone up except their Social Security check. Some of them have told me they've even had to take on a part-time job just to make ends meet. I've had several two-income families tell me that they have children currently in the school. They have also faced financial hardships due to increases in property taxes. Most have an escrowed mortgage, and they've told me that their mortgages have went up monthly, from $150 all the way up to $800, depending on where they live. Landlords are also going to pass this property tax increase on to tenants. Private landlords pay 2% of the assessed values on their property. Businesses will also be forced to pass this tax increase on to customers, potentially causing them to close down or relocate. I've had a small handful of school affiliates chime in as to why we need to support this referendum. I know Heather knows all about this. They commented, taxes are going up anyways, we just want a little bit more. One PTA mom said, we need to invest in the very people who will one day be the change we so desperately need in this community. Am I missing something?
No.
I think what our community is missing is we've got a lot of people that have no empathy. But anyways, I've had a couple keyboard warriors tell me on social media that if I don't like it, I should just sell my house. And I know Heather has too. One school board member stated 2 meetings ago that she'll just take her family out one last time a month. No big deal to her. I think that also expresses the disconnect between some of these communities and ours. Another comment was the transfer students seem to be the go-to for your opposition. Less transfers means less funding. And we will have to cut programs that are not, NOT, not essential for graduation. Now, I've printed out some comments from people. I'm not going to say their names. But this is community response. One says, yes, I read the reply that said, I'll just take my family out to eat one less time a month. It was just telling that she has no idea how people live outside of her bubble. Someone else said, yep, that's the moment that sealed my vote. My jaw literally hit the floor. And this is in regards to an escrow account. This lady said, I've lived here for 5 years. My house payment is the same. I'm on an escrow. My payments went up $300 a month in the 5 years that I've lived here. This tax increase, that's due to tax increases already passed. I will be voting no. And another resident said, I am a retired JCPS teacher. I resent your remark, which was to telling me to sell my house if I didn't like this. As a childless taxpayer who has never resented paying public schools taxes that are reasonable, as a property owner in Sellersburg, I will be voting no to this unreasonable hike. This young lady I want to meet personally, she was replying to a patient saying about the food pantry. She said, let me get this straight. You want to burden struggling families and those on fixed incomes with this tax increase, and your answer is to their struggle is a food pantry. Let's notify the peasants of their canned good offerings so graciously donated. Absolute let them eat cake vibes. I can't believe this kind of entitled thinking is even in our small town. If it endangers anyone's financial stability in this community, it simply shouldn't be done. And I agree. Now this is from a parent. I'm voting no because of this BS, and I'm sure that doesn't stand for bus stop. You want me to pay more for out-of-district people. On top of that, you haven't even finished the work you started on the high school. My daughter still doesn't have a locker, and some classrooms still have no walls. Nope, I'm not responsible for other people's kids, and with a graduation rate of only 86%, I don't think they really deserve funding. I wish it was up to those who vote yes, that they take care of this funding. Clearly you have the money to do this. I don't. This is just a few of many. And a local business owner. With our 2 residences and a business in Sellersburg, if this goes through, it will pretty much do us in financially. And he's here, so DeTillo. He made the stickers on the table back there too. I want to encourage everyone to please talk to your neighbors because, again, not everybody's on social media. Most of the people I've talked to have no idea about this, and that's scary. Make sure you're registered to vote and make sure you know which designated precinct you're supposed to vote in. And together we will end this tax referendum. This is your voice and your vote. Thank you.
And Heather is going to give us some testimonials as well.
Hello. I'm really nervous also. That was the last time I spoke. If you all didn't see me, I spoke at the last school board meeting, and I had read some testimony from some people that couldn't be there. But me personally, I am also a graduate of Silver Creek High School. I've lived in Sellersburg basically my whole life. I went to Silver Creek K through 12, graduated in 2009. My parents went there, graduated in 1980. My grandparents have lived here since the 70s. I've got roots in this town also. So, I've been through quite a few changes. I remember when the middle school was torn down and it was built. My class was the first one that went to the new middle school, and how cool that was, and how great it was that we were able to get that. I went through the high school when it was just horrible, just mold and bugs, and couldn't even use the showers because they didn't work, and the plumbing was awful. So that's just a little bit of background about me. A little bit more is that, currently my family and I, we live in a Clarksville annex part of Sellersburg. So our taxing is slightly different, but we do still pay Silver Creek school taxes. So my rates will increase, but maybe slightly different than some other residents. But us personally, this would cause our rates to rise like $500 more a year for taxes. Which would put us at about a little over $3,000 or so, just in property taxes alone. And the things that I don't like about this is mostly they present this, like Vaughn said, and other testimony said, is it's not really that big a deal. It's just an extra $40, $100 a month. But what they don't take into account is that this isn't the only place where that would affect our property taxes. We've got countywide taxes with the fire territory that's being proposed. We may get 30% increase there. And I just feel like people said, they're living in their own little bubble, and they're not really seeing how this would affect working class families. And this is what this community is. It's a lot of just working middle class families, a lot of retirees, low income people. My grandparents, were basically living on peanuts. And, God bless them. I'm glad they're not here to see this because they were barely surviving. And they were lucky because they owned their house, but still, they were barely surviving on that. So it's just frustrating for me to see, I guess, the lack of empathy, like Vaughn said, that, it should just be a matter of just a little bit more per month. What's the big deal? Oh, well, I could lose my home. That's the big deal. Me, I'm a single income household. My husband works at Ford, has a pretty decent job, but, we're getting by. And the reason why, if anybody wonders, is just because, childcare. Childcare is super expensive. I have 2 kids. We couldn't afford childcare. It would have cost me more to go back to work and pay $150, $160 a week in childcare than it would be for me to not work. But, we're able to make it work, but just barely. So, we're full, this community is full of people in those different types of situations. And just the tone deaf responses I keep hearing from the school board. I've said it before, the lack of transparency. You all may have seen me crying about it on Facebook a lot. But one thing I didn't appreciate a lot is how they just keep telling everybody, oh, just go to the school board meetings, go to the board meetings, you can watch the board meetings, it's all there. Well, not everybody really pays attention to that stuff. And yes, some of the work is on us, but not everyone in this community should feel like you have to go out of your way to sit down and watch an hour-long board meeting to get any information. This is something that will affect us greatly as an entire community. They're the ones getting paid. They should be the ones putting in the effort to get the word out. If they want our support so bad, why are they not putting more of an effort to help us understand why they really need this? I don't really understand that mindset. Why they're trying to put it back on us as a community, like it's our fault that we don't know enough and we haven't done enough research. That's another, you all may, I'm sorry, put my views on people, but that's just a frustrating thing for me. But anyway, yeah, so sorry, I'm so nervous, I'm just trying to think of what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so putting it back on the community it's not fair. It's not fair. They're the ones getting paid. They should be the ones being more transparent, getting the word out to us, answering our questions, not just behind a closed door meeting. That's the other thing. They don't want to answer stuff publicly. When people ask them questions directly, it's, oh, we're being so transparent, but come talk to us, all four of us together alone behind closed doors. Why? Why can't you just say it when we ask you at the board meetings? I don't really understand that. And why do they keep pushing that it's all about the kids? It's all about the kids. And if you all aren't for this, then you all must just not like the kids enough. That makes zero sense to me. Like, that makes no sense. A lot of people have kids in these school systems, but when you're about to put us out of our homes, then it's not about the kids. So anyway, that's just me. Sorry, but that's just me personally. So anyway, I'm gonna.
And now Annie Williams will talk to us about transfers and how that's affecting overcrowding.
Okay, I hope I talk loud enough. Thank you, everyone. So I actually am not from Sellersburg originally, so I feel left out of this crowd here. I am from Massachusetts, actually, originally, so you might hear a little bit of Boston accent, so just let that flow over. I was fortunate enough to play soccer at U of L and move here 20-somewhat years ago, and now I call Sellersburg home. I've been here 12 years. I have 2 kids in the school district, so I have a 7th and an 8th grader. So teenage years is what I'm going through. I spoke at November and December. Yeah, right before Christmas, they had a board meeting, and I asked the board 17 questions. Obviously, they did not have time to answer those questions, so they asked me to come in for a private meeting with the president of the board, the superintendent, and the CFO. So I spent 2.5 hours in their office. It was a great meeting. We discussed all of my 17 questions. You might have seen them on their website. I will say a lot of the answers were not good enough, in my opinion. I said this to them. I challenged them on a lot of them. The transfers is what really irks me a little bit. So on one of those questions, I made them a nice little chart to fill in so that you can see it very easy. And you've probably seen this before, but it is the in-district, the transfers, the total enrollment, and then the optimal levels, like what we should be. And I'm not going to read all the data for you, but I will tell you every single one in district for primary, elementary, middle, and high, the enrollment, we're under the optimal in every single one, right? Where it becomes an issue is the transfers. Transfers make us over in all of them but the high school. And the only reason we're not over in the high school is because of the recent expansion. So just so you understand that. So what I say is, what is the real problem that we're trying to solve for, right? It isn't this building's going to be the grand all. That's a Band-Aid. This is a $62 million Band-Aid, right? The real problem is a transfer problem. We have a transfer problem, transfer in and transfer out. We have both. When I ask them, why are people leaving? What is the reason that students are not going here? And I will quote this, they said, it's too hard to figure out. And I said, well, that's a data point. Now, I do come from the business world, everything's data for me. I said, that's a data point you might want to know, right? Why are people not coming? Or why are they leaving? Is it due to overcrowdedness? Is it due to athletics? Is it due to teachers or ratios or any waivers? That's all I heard. And I think we know that's less than 1%, right? So they were open with me. It was an honest conversation. That's not good enough for me, right? I think we should have a top 5 reasons why people are leaving the school and then do the work. Figure out how to fix that problem, right? Keep Sellersburg kids in Sellersburg. Second problem is the transferring kids in, right? All the transfers we have, which is over 800 right now. Is that correct? Over 800 kids, which is like 26% are not in this district, which they will pay 0 towards this. 0. So I had a discussion about the policies around the transfers. So my son is in the 8th grade class. I don't know if anyone has any kids in the 8th grade class. It is the largest class to ever go through Silver Creek, right? And don't quote me on this, but it's like 100 over, like it's a ton over. He has 50 kids in his flex class, 50, okay? So we talked extensively about that class, right? He hasn't gotten elected that he's wanted yet in 8th grade, so that's 6 times he has not gotten the electives because there's too many kids in the class. He has this class of 50. Oh no, we have certain grades that we will not allow transfers for. And 8th grade was in there, that's part of their policy, right? Who they do allow is if you're a parent who teaches there, your kid gets in, or if you have a sibling. Those are the two cannot say no. That's a have to, let them in. Everyone else, if we're overcrowded in the codes, they can say no, right? And then he showed me a little note card with all the different grades that are no longer accepting transfers. Dr. Briggs also spoke at the board meeting in February about all these policies and all that they have. Not 5 days later, guess who they let in? 8th grade transfers. So I emailed them and asked them, how are we now allowing 8th grade transfers? We need the head count for the February account. Yes. I thought it was about the kids, right? I mean, you cannot have policies for convenience. That's not a policy. If you can change the policy whenever you want, that's no policy. So that's my problem too, is actually have a policy that you stick to. I do think we need transfers. At some level, we need to have a balance, right? Because we want to make sure that we are at that occupancy level, getting the funding we need, making sure that we're doing that. So my third problem is not knowing how to balance these numbers. Now, when I asked them about this, their math wasn't mathing, and I told them that. And so they were saying that they make assumptions, and it's a calculation, they have to just assume. And I asked them, I said, who's doing it well? And they looked at me like I had 3 eyes. And I said, there are 290 other districts in Indiana. Someone's got to be doing it well. Someone has to have the calculation down and figure out the balance of what works with not building schools every 3 years, 3 to 5 years, right? There's got to be someone who does it well. Go talk to them. Figure out their calculation and copy what they are doing. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't assume. Don't try to go and I'm sure schools in Indy, I'm sure there's plenty of them that have this calculation down pat, right? And until we do these 3 things, in my opinion, we'll be building schools every 3 years. Every 3 to 5 years, we will be building schools. One last note that I didn't put in here, it's not really anything to do with transfers, but I asked them about their plan B. What is plan B if this doesn't pass? And you can see it on the questions that I asked. It's the last question, and their answer was portable classrooms, overcrowdedness, and then there could be turnover from teachers. And I looked at them and said, that's a doomsday, that's a risk assessment, that's not a plan, right? You need a plan, because there's a 50% chance this is not going to go through. Hopefully a lot more than that. They have no plan if this doesn't pass, right? I did also ask, just side note, how are all the operational costs going to be paid for this new school? So what about the janitors, the lunch ladies, the guidance counselors, the nurses, the teachers? That doesn't come out of this budget. And then they said, well, there won't be any more teachers. And I said, what do you mean? We're not budgeting for any more teachers. And I said, okay. And he's like, no, they're just going to move the teachers from the elementary to the new school. I said, well, then you're not going to lower the classes, like the ratio? Like, aren't they over too many kids in the class? No, that's not a problem. That's what they said. And I said, I challenge you to ask the teachers that. So if you think this is for the kids and to lower their classes and to give more one-on-one, it's not. And that's straight from their mouth. It is not. They are not lowering the class sizes. It's nothing to do with that. There will be extra space for the music teacher and the art teacher, yes. There will be that. But it is not to lower the ratio. So I went through a ton of questions with them. If you have any personal questions, and I actually went through it, I will answer those later. You can come see me. But I think that's all I have to say today. I was going to go through this at the board meeting, and I was going to volunteer my own personal time to have a workforce and do a group to come up with these answers if they don't have time. So if they allow that, that wouldn't cost $62 million. It would be free to come up with those solutions. So that's another option.
So to wrap this up, so we don't stay here all night, we have some information that you can post in your yard. We have yard signs. Those right now we are out of those, but they're scheduled to arrive on March 26th, and you'll be able to pick those up at Frame It in Sellersburg, and they are $10 a piece. And then also we are in the process of printing some flyers. There are a few on the center table. If there are any left, please feel free to pick those up and hand those out to your neighbors.
And then they're running some absentee ballots back there on the table.
Okay, and there are some absentee ballot applications on the table. So if you can't make it on May 6th, please vote absentee and vote no. And so, I'm sorry?
I know people get busy, this is an off year, so it funny how that works out, so maybe the further the turnout, what we're hoping for. But, again, May 6th, go ahead and start voting April 8th in person, before that, election year as well, and the process has to be.
And Court Avenue is the only place where they are having early voting.
Correct.
So,
It's in there right there. It's behind that.
and then, so after we adjourn here, Jen has put together a binder of information, and honestly, it is incredibly in-depth and detailed and specific. So if you are minded to get detailed, specific information, talk to Jen afterwards, and she can get you down to the pins. So with that,
I have a question. Just a real quick question. Is anybody going to coordinate? Are you going to do this to coordinate the drive to defeat this measure? Or is it just going to be helter skelter, everybody do it on their own?
well, as we move